You wake up every morning and make choices. Small, seemingly insignificant things. What to wear, what to eat, who to answer to, what to ignore. And then there are the big ones, the ones you carry like stones in your chest for years. The career you accepted, the relationship that stayed, the dream you postponed once again. But there's a truth no one tells you about choices, a truth that philosophers have studied for centuries, and that most people discover too late, usually when they've already paid the price without even knowing they had to. You never choose just one thing, you always choose two. You choose what you will have, and simultaneously you choose what you will silently carry with you for the rest of your life. Not as punishment, not as an accident, but as the law. In 1912, Carl Gustav Jung, Freud's intellectual heir, the man destined to lead psychoanalysis, made a decision. He publicly disagreed with Freud. The 12-year friendship ended. The psychoanalytic community informally expelled him. His reputation collapsed. Jung gained the intellectual freedom he needed, and he lost almost everything else. For 5 years after the breakup, he immersed himself in what he called confrontation with the unconscious, a period of visions, isolation, and radical questioning of his own sanity. What he discovered during that period was the basis of all analytical psychology: the shadow, individuation, enantiodromia. It was the discovery that every choice has two sides, and that the side you don't choose doesn't disappear. He's just going to live in the dark, and from there, he governs. Here's the problem you face. You make decisions every day without seeing what's on the other side of them. You choose security without seeing the stagnation embedded within. You choose ambition without seeing the isolation that comes with it. You choose to please without seeing the resentment that accumulates layer upon layer. And then one day, you wake up exhausted for no reason, irritated with the person you love, sabotaging the very thing you built with so much effort. And you call that destiny. Jung called it the unconscious bill. Throughout this video, we'll delve into the invisible architecture of your decisions and extract a real map to identify, understand, and integrate the hidden cost of every choice you've made, are making, and will make. You'll understand why your greatest achievements are accompanied by an inexplicable sadness, why you repeat patterns you detest, why the most successful are often the most empty, and more than just understanding it, you'll learn what to do with it. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. It starts now. Principle 1. The law of psychic compensation. All the energy you suppress in one direction reappears with double the force in another. This is the law of psychic compensation, as relentless as any law of physics. When you suppress an emotion, it doesn't die. When you abandon a part of yourself for social convenience, that part doesn't accept exile peacefully. The question isn't whether you'll pay, it's whether you'll pay consciously or in installments you can't track. Jung built this concept upon Heraclitus, the Greek philosopher who coined the principle of enantiodromia, the tendency of anything that goes too far in one direction to turn into its opposite. For Jung, the human psyche obeys the same logic. It is a system of energies in constant search of equilibrium. When you force energy entirely in one direction, through social pressure, conscious effort, or trauma, the repressed energy accumulates on the opposite side like water behind a dam. And the dam, sooner or later, breaks. The man who spent decades being the strong one day implodes. The hyper-controlled individual explodes disproportionately to the trigger. The person who always sacrificed for others wakes up with a blind hatred that they themselves cannot explain. This is not a weakness of character. It's a psychological compensation. In the city of Rome, 184 BC, Marcus Porcius Cato was considered the most virtuous of the Romans. As censor, he pursued any moral deviation with obsession. He expelled senators, he taxed luxury, he fought Greek influence with increasing ferocity. What he repressed within himself, pleasure, flexibility, compassion, he projected onto others as vices to be eradicated. And what he couldn't integrate internally, he needed to annihilate in the external world. He became known for repeating in every speech in the Senate, regardless of the subject. Furthermore, it is my opinion that Carthage should be destroyed. Carthage was Cato's shadow. It was everything he had destroyed within himself for decades. And because he couldn't integrate that side of himself, he needed to literally eliminate it from the world. Compensation, when it cannot find an internal outlet, always finds an external one. Now, take stock of what you never allow yourself to do. Not what's wrong, what you automatically block without question. Every never is a dam, and every dam has a pressure limit. When you lose your temper excessively, don't treat it as weakness. Treat it as information. What have I been denying within myself that is now exacting this price? Principle 2. The shadow and the price of the ideal. Everything you reject in yourself doesn't disappear. It becomes shadow. And the shadow always finds a way to govern what the light insists on illuminating. From childhood, human beings learn what is acceptable. Family, culture, religion, all tell the child. This behavior is approved, this is condemned. The child pushes in what is not approved: aggression, envy, selfishness, fear. These parts do not die. They go to the shadow, and the shadow expresses itself in two ways. A projection. You see in others with disturbing intensity exactly what you deny in yourself. Those who hate the arrogance of others often carry an unacknowledged arrogance within themselves. A eruption in times of stress, the shadow breaks free from the ego's control. That's when you don't know what came over you. It belonged. You simply didn't know it was yours. The less the shadow is incorporated into conscious life, the darker and denser it becomes. Jung now identify 3 characteristics that you most strongly condemn in others. Not those that slightly irritate you, but those that cause almost physical repulsion. Ask yourself honestly, in what way, in what context, does that make sense? The intensity of the condemnation is proportional to the intimacy you have with that shadow. Let's pause here. So far you have learned that psychic repression doesn't eliminate energy, but accumulates it with interest, that the shadow governs from where you cannot see it, and that every choice is also a loss that exacts a toll when it is not processed. These are the fundamentals. This is the anatomy of the problem. Now, we're entering deeper territory. Let's talk about how this burden actively operates in your life, and more importantly, about the only process that doesn't eliminate the price, but transforms it. The upcoming laws are not merely a diagnosis. They are the map of the territory where real transformation takes place. Imezi Principle 3. Dissonance as an accumulated bill. There's a debt that accumulates every time you act in a way that contradicts who you say you are, and the interest on this debt is called self-sabotage. Leon Festinger discovered that when action and belief contradict each other, humans have 3 options: change the action, change the belief, or add justifications that support the contradiction. The third option is by far the most common and the most expensive, because each layer of justification requires psychic energy to maintain, like programs running in the background, consuming processing power without you seeing it. Multiply that by years of accumulated contradictions, and you have a system operating at a fraction of its actual capacity. Viktor Frankl added the deepest dimension. The most destructive dissonance is not between action and belief, but between action and belief, meaning, when you spend years doing something that you can't connect to any genuine purpose, the result is what he called existential vacuum, not acute pain, emptiness, and emptiness has no clear direction to heal. Now, for 1 week, observe without judgment every time you act in a way that contradicts something you genuinely value, not to punish yourself, but to quantify the dissonance. Most people are surprised by the sheer volume, so differentiate. Necessary dissonance imposed by adult life is different from chronic dissonance that you've stopped questioning. When you stop questioning a contradiction, it ceases to be useful discomfort and becomes an invisible prison. Yuan Principle 4. Individuation, transforming price into alchemy. You can't eliminate the hidden cost of your choices, but you can, through a deliberate and courageous process, transform it, not into the absence of pain, but into a source of depth, authenticity, and real strength. This is the process that Jung called individuation. Individuation is not about becoming better in the conventional moral sense. It's about becoming whole. It is the process by which internal opposites, light and shadow, persona and self, consciousness and unconscious, are progressively integrated into a coherent whole. And its central paradox is that it demands precisely what the ego most resists, descending into what has been buried. Jung called this process katabasis, the same term the Greeks used for the descent of heroes into the underworld, Orpheus descending to Hades, Hercules in his 12th labor. The mythological underworld is not punishment. It is the repository of what has been lost, repressed, denied. The medieval alchemists said, loosen and coagulate, dissolve and recombine. Jung saw in alchemical texts a coded description of individuation, dissolving the rigid structures of the ego and recombining opposites at a level of greater complexity and consciousness. Gold is not the starting point. It is the result of the process. After his break with Freud, Jung plunged into a state he himself described as bordering on genius and psychosis. Voices, visions, the ground of reality crumbling beneath his feet. A more rigid man would have clung to the persona of the respectable doctor and suppressed everything that came from below. Jung did the opposite. He went down. He began to actively engage in dialogue with the figures that emerged from his unconscious. An old sage he called Philemon, a female figure he called Anima. He documented these dialogues in a manuscript that he kept hidden for decades. The Red Book, published only in 2009, 30 years after his death. It wasn't the diary of a man in collapse. It was the diary of a man doing what he would propose to all his patients, confronting what the unconscious carried, dialoguing with it, integrating it. What emerged from that 5-year period was the richest psychological theory of the 20th century, the concept of the shadow, the archetypes, individuation, the self. The price of rupture became the material of all his work. Loosen and coagulate, dissolve, recombine, what's left is gold. Now, for 30 days, write down an answer to this single question every day. What did I avoid feeling today? It's not what happened, but what you avoided feeling. With time, the patterns emerge with a clarity that no external analysis can replace. So, is there something you love doing, a way of expressing yourself, an interest, a part of yourself, that you abandoned at some point for a reason that seemed reasonable? Go back to it. Not necessarily as a career, but as an act of integration. What you buried doesn't have to rule your life, but it needs space to exist. We have reached the end of this journey. You learned that psychic compensation is relentless, that what you suppress comes back with interest, that the shadow is not your enemy, but the part of you that waited in the dark because there was no room in the light, that every choice is also a mourning, and that unresolved mourning becomes a burden without a destination, and that the accumulated dissonance between who you are and how you act builds a prison that you yourself cannot see. And he learned that there is a way. Not by eliminating costs, that's not possible, and any system that promises that is lying to you, but of transformation. The man who never paid any hidden price, who suppressed everything, planned everything, rationalized everything, is a man without depth, a persona without a self, a mask with no face underneath. The man who descended, who confronted what he had buried, who mourned what was lost, who integrated what he had rejected, that man is more complete. And completeness has a different weight than burden. It is the weight of something real, of something that belongs entirely to him. You don't have to choose between achievement and authenticity, but you need to stop pretending, once and for all, that your choices don't have two sides. Look at the two of them, find out the price, and choose with your eyes open, fully aware of what it will cost. Because a choice made in this way is a choice that belongs entirely to you, and only what is entirely yours can build a life that is entirely yours. If this video touched on something you hadn't yet been able to name, leave a comment with a single word. What do you think has been your most frequent hidden cost? Curiosity, security, approval, control? Awareness begins with naming. And if you've made it this far, I invite you to watch the video that's appearing on your screen. I'm sure you'll learn something very interesting there too. Until the next video.